rides the waves on a digital spell, turning the charts into stories to tell. Spins his wand, it's a bullish assault. He's the king of coins, the wizard of alt. He's casting trades in the blink of an eye. Bitcoin moves while the skeptics sigh. Fear and greed, they dance like a waltz. All bow down to the wizard of alt. Wearing his hoodie, no crystal ball glow. Spells in the code, only the blockchain knows. Candlestick patterns light up the vault. The maestro of magic, the wizard of alt. He's casting trades in the blink of an eye. Bitcoin moves while the skeptics sigh. Fear and greed, they dance like a waltz. All bow down to the wizard of alt. When the markets tremble and the nights grow dark, he ignites the charts with his trading spark, fighting the bears in a relentless halt. Unstoppable force, the wizard of alt. He's casting trades in the blink of an eye. Bitcoin moves while the skeptics sigh. Fear and greed, they dance like a waltz. All bow down to the wizard of alt.
Hello, and welcome to the Wizard's Lair on this sunny Friday. I am joined by one of my friends, Mr. Dave from Stonksy. Hello, Dave.
Hello, mate. Welcome to welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me on to the second episode of your channel. It's great to be here.
Thank you. How are things? How are you? Market all right? Keeping you sane and solvent?
Yeah, very well. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a testing time, but I think particularly Bitcoin has been very good to trade in terms of leading the market volatility. But I think the key thing at the moment is to try and not overtrade it. If you try and overtrade this, I think you leave yourself a bit open, don't you, to getting caught in one of these moves that we've got in this headline market, I suppose we could call it.
Yeah, it's been somewhat choppy, hasn't it? But it's always it's always fun to trade when it's like this. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun trading, I must say, especially sort of on both the long and the short buttons, but more on the short. Yeah. So who have we got in the chat then? Let's have a look. So we have Steve-O. How are you doing? Yeah, the Eurodollar. I was inspired by our friend Mr. Blockpro and his love of Eurotrance.
It was very funky. It was a very funky intro. I could imagine that going off.
Yeah, it's some funky beats on a Friday morning. You'll have to tune in again next week to hear it again, Steve-O. We've got Gonksy. Hello and welcome. And we have our man, last week's guest, Mr. Justin. How are we? Yeah. How? So aside from that, Dave, things good. Everything keeping you entertained?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, been a fun couple of weeks streaming with the volatility. So the streams have been, even when I don't have a guest on, and it's just me. The volatility and the things we got going on at the moment, keeping it very interesting. And there's not been really a boring period in the market for about 2 months now. I was looking on it yesterday at my stream, and we haven't had really any compression or consolidation for a good about 2 months now. So yeah, it's even with it being all over the place and the market being down and stuff like that, it is a very interesting time.
Yeah, it's just been full on whipsawing, hasn't it? But I don't know about you, but I do quite like whipsawing, especially if you can get the
Yeah.
right end of it. I think this is where it separates a bit of the trading element, and obviously having Stonksy really helps in some of that directionality. Is there anything you've got your eye on then? I'm conscious we can potentially do a stream trade. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've been keeping my eye obviously on where Bitcoin's moving up to. We are kind of approaching that level where we sold off aggressively yesterday. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting. We got the dollar now completely collapsing, haven't we? Back under 100. I still like the idea of the XRP swing short, but I'm not that yet, and obviously that's not a stream trade. So are you looking to get into something on stream and then close it by the end, or
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we feeling?
100x fart coin?
100x Spark coin.
Giga short it. Go on.
Oh,
Giga
well,
short
only
it.
let me do 3x. I'm gonna have to change. I'm gonna have to change providers. Shall we look at shorting Fartcoin?
Go on.
Right.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah. When you look at it across the market, I think that's undoubtedly going to give us the most volatility in the time that we're on stream, isn't it?
It's that strength, isn't it?
It is pretty wild. I mean, it's done. What has it done? It's done over a 4x now since the start of March-ish, which is pretty wild in this market, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit nuts, isn't it? I'm clicking on the wrong screen there. Right, so let's go for a Fartcoin short. We'll use half of whatever's in here.
Oh, you doing it? Yeah, you're gonna do it.
Yeah, let's go for it. 3x Fartcoin short.
It's interesting that you're using Hyperliquid as well, because I've still not used it. I still want to use it. I still want to get involved. It's interesting, obviously, with you being on there. So, how do you actually use Hyperliquid? Because maybe there's a few people in the audience as well that hasn't used it. Like I've been meaning to get round to going on there and having a go with the perps and stuff like that. So how do you actually do you just connect the wallet, or do you have to create an account on there, or?
So you don't create accounts. So essentially, it just runs off a MetaMask wallet. So I created a stream account the other day. So what you essentially do is, without sort of revealing too much, I've got this little stream account here. So you'll deposit into your MetaMask on the Arbitrum. So you'll send both USDC and some Ethereum on Arbitrum.
Yeah.
And click deposit, and it deposits straight in, sits in here, and you essentially then open up so you can switch between perps and spot, put it into here. And what I've been doing on my other account is quite interesting. They've got this feature that I quite like. So two things. So you've got staking, which I have been told by someone, and a little bit of intel here, that if you stake Hype and USDC on ARB to ValiDAO, there is potentially an airdrop coming on this one.
Okay.
I think there's some airdrops on the other ones, but there's different validators that have that come on here. So you see the Hyperliquid Foundation have some there.
Yeah.
You've got ValiDAO who is set up, and I believe I've been told that's the one for the airdrop, but I would confirm. But yeah, so you stake it for here, so you've got different ones there. So that's from a staking perspective, and then you also have the vaults. So this hyperliquidity provider was obviously the famous one in the fact this was the one that exploits. So essentially, this is where either a trader or a strategy goes on, and the vault, people deposit into the vault, and the vault essentially trades with the money that people have deposited in.
Yeah.
So you can see this one. This one takes on liquidated positions, and yeah, so this one makes its money from various market making strategies, liquidations, and whatever you get from a platform fee. So you can see the P&L of it has gone up. I think we see account value has plummeted somewhat. I mean, I think we can all guess why that is. But you can see the various sort of positions that this is on. I mean, this one's 150 million TVL, and there's some pretty nuts positions on here. Someone has 20x shorted Badger. 20x short Popcat. So the worst one in the hole is this Omi, which is 165% in the hole. You wouldn't want to be holding on to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, so on the vaults, you've got different ones that people set up. So you can set up your own vault. So if you click create vault, it's 100 USDC to create a vault. But essentially, it's the difference from this and copy trading, to my knowledge, is that you deposit in and then they trade with your money rather than you just copying their trades. And there's various lockups. So if we go on, some of the APRs are a bit nuts, but if we find DGen AI, whatever this is, you can see the various positions. So you deposit in, this locks up for a day, and it will essentially, whoever is in that vault or whatever strategy is employed, essentially takes the trades. You can run it, to my knowledge, of automated strategies as well. So potentially, if you coded a strategy, you can run it on here to run with whatever's in the vault.
Yeah. That is fascinating, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like decentralized. What's the decentralized prop firm kind of, innit?
Yeah.
Like kind of like
that.
You're able to just, if you get people to join your vault, you kind of just collecting all this money to trade with.
You're just running a hedge fund essentially. So
that's
decentralized hedge fund.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it'll be quite interesting. I think if we start to see sort of more stuff come online, whether that be less so of these cryptos, but more sort of potential once we see forex and equities, etc. on here. I quite like it, and they've got there's some other things. So there's obviously this funding comparison where you can look at the different funding rates of each asset across all of the ones, and it tells you there what the arbitrage is between Bybit and Hyperliquid. So I know once those get quite big, you see people are drawn to milking a bit of that arbitrage out.
Yeah.
As a way to making some money. But I quite like it. It's interesting, and obviously anything decentralized is always a winner when it's in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it looks great. I mean, I think that's kind of the first, kind of demo or walkthrough that I've actually seen on it. But I have been meaning to go on it myself. But it's great to see it just like gone through and shown around, because it does look. And you like if you said, you took away obviously the wallet address and stuff in the corner, you would think that was a centralized exchange, wouldn't you?
100%. I find the UX of it really, really clean. And obviously you get some of so if you click on here, it gives you the different ways to scale into position. So you can scale in, you can TWAP and put in the various stops one way. I must admit, I do quite like it. You can obviously open it up and trade a lot more, but it's gasless as well. So when you come to withdraw, you can send it immediately off. And I think when we look at sort of the way Ethereum's gone or going, these layer 2s are really good. Like Arbitrum is just instant settlement, and I think it costs me about 2 cents to deposit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, compared to centralized exchange, I mean, you pay I think 2% to deposit onto like a Swissborg or etc. So I quite like it. I must admit, it's and then obviously if you want to have it on your phone, you click there, I'm not approving that on my wallet. I'm not showing my wallet on stream, even if it does have absolutely next to nothing in it. But yeah, I must admit I quite like it. I've been using it a little bit on the side, but yeah, it's I'm beginning to get a bit more drawn to it. It's a good way to use up some of my Ethereum, because I'm quite heavy ETH at the minute, and I want to be less heavy ETH.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I'm gonna have a look at it. I'm gonna have to have a look at it. But yeah, it looks a great alternative if if you want to trade decentralized perps or just have a go with it.
Yeah, and I think the vaults are interesting. I think potentially we may see a wizard vault. We'll see.
Yeah.
Trading some of these, but yeah, I Hype Street Capital.
I might even go on and create a vault. I think that is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think you get, so if I click on create a vault, yeah, so you get a 10% profit share. But what I quite like is if you have a vault, you must have at least 5% of the liquidity in the vault. So you can't just essentially create a vault and you have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
So if you get more, you can't withdraw or make deposits until you get if it takes you below that 5%, which I think is I think it's quite a sensible option, and obviously it gives people the chance to follow along. Yeah, it's interesting, and I found it's quite quick. Yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. Look at this one. I mean, some of the vaults have done pretty poorly. This guy obviously had a very nice run up and then has not done much. But that's my only criticism is when you're looking through these vaults, is it's so hard to the filters aren't particularly good unless you sort of go by TVL. So you look at this hyper liquidity trader. So this one uses buy high, sell low strategies, gets liquidated.
Just pure degen, and of course it's got nearly 3 million in TVL, of course.
Look at some of these trade histories. That's a $500,000 trade. Yeah, it's a bit nuts. This guy's got a.
So that's interesting. So this guy,
wrong.
Whoever's running this vault, they have to have roughly what about
5%? They
just
have to
shy
have
of 100, just shy of 150k in this vault to run it, or if they want to withdraw anything.
To run it, so they can't withdraw from it. So you can see the depositors. I mean, in fairness, the leader of this vault has about $3 million in it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's down pretty bad. He's down 200,000, but then has 16,000 unrealized. But yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. I think obviously this is prone to abuse, as we have seen before. But yeah, I must admit I'm a fan. It's just really quick, and obviously staking it is a good way to get airdrops. And as I said to you, I bought some hype at $10 and $11, so sitting pretty on that one.
Yeah, very very nice.
And we are level on the Fartcoin short, so I will stop sharing that, and we will come back to that later.
Liquidated.
I'll come back. Yeah, it's limited to 3x. I think because when I went on the other day, it said that there was too much interest in Fartcoin, so I assumed that they're running out of some of their reserves.
Yeah,
which probably explains the squeeze upwards. Who else have we got in the chat? We have Gannicus. Good morning, Gannicus. Good morning to Pack. We have Justin, who would like to see a Wiz Vault, and Dave's Dungeon. That sounds fairly ominous. I don't know what Dave's Dungeon would entail. What assets would sit in Dave's Dungeon?
You'll have to come and find out, won't you? You have to take a trip to Dave's Dungeon.
We have Lady Legal in the chat, so everyone be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
And we have the legend that is Mr. Block Pro. Good morning. So I guess let's jump straight into it. For those who haven't met you, or for those who have seen you on your stream every day, but wish to learn a bit more about you, I think it would be interesting to dive into sort of how you got into the world of crypto trading and sort of what your journey's been like so far.
Yeah, so I mean, my first like actual dabble into crypto came from I was actually flipping Pokemon cards in 2020. So I was buying graded Pokemon cards and just selling them for a profit. And then I kind of got the idea of, well, you know, there must be like an online sort of way to trade or do something online that's a lot easier than just, you know, buying these cards, waiting for them to arrive and then selling them. So yeah, obviously, first thing I came across was obviously FX. Looked into it, but then I think I can't even remember how I first came across crypto. It was like late 2020. I think it was like December 2020. And I can't even remember how I came across it. And I don't know if it was a video on YouTube or whatever. And then like I just become hooked. Then I went on to created a Coinbase account, started buying all sorts of random stuff, like just anything that sounded cool at first because I didn't exactly know what it was. And then I just started scooping up a load of Ethereum, and like Matic and stuff like that. And then yeah, obviously, you know, went through the motions on 2020. Wasn't trading at all. I was just a spot holder. And then I actually got into trading perps in it was around like probably the first few months of 2022. And yeah, at the time, like my job was just putting loads of stress on me. I was working like 60, 70 hours a week. And I wanted to take a break anyway. So I thought, well, I'll take a break and, you know, try and just take it slow in trading and just try and cover my living expenses. So then, yeah, I quit my job in, I think it was April 2022. And then, yeah, about a week or so later, Luna collapsed and we went through all that crazy motion, like a complete baptism of fire, pretty much. And then, yeah, obviously, we then went through the summer months and then FTX collapsed and stuff like that. And then, you know, come the end of the year, I remember at one point I was sat at my desk in my bedroom thinking, like, what has happened over the past, like, 6, 7, 8 months? Like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was just complete anarchy. But, you know, then things started to turn around. Obviously, you started working with TMG in his business. And then, yeah, obviously come over full-time Stonksy when we started pushing Stonksy out as a public product. And then, yeah, been cooking on Stonksy for the past... So I think we started advertising it in around, I think it was late September-ish. So yeah, I've just been cooking on that for the past, you know, 7, 8 months. And that's been my journey pretty much in a nutshell from start to finish. Yeah, started off pretty crazy, but settled down a lot. And I mean, I don't think there's anything better than working full time in crypto. You know, like the freedom that it gives you just to obviously work at home. But you know, there's always something going on, especially with what I do with streaming and obviously with a product directly involved in trading. There's always something going on. There's always something to talk about, or there's always something interesting. And content creation was never something I've really done before. I think I started streaming on Stonksy in October, and I'd never streamed before. I'd never even created a video. Didn't know how to do videos and or anything around that realm. So yeah, it's been like a very fast learning curve, but yeah, I love it now. Yeah, I love creating content, love doing the streams, obviously putting the videos together, and you know the community that we've built at Stonksy. So I think, yeah, overall, from start to finish, it's been wild. But I mean, the things, you know, it's the peaks and troughs, isn't it, that you go through, especially in this industry. It's non-stop. You know, it's non-stop peaks and troughs. and yeah, I ended up in a pretty in a pretty good position where I get to come on and speak to you fine people every day, and I've met some great people along the way, and obviously everyone that's involved around, whether it be CSE, Stonksy, or anything else. You get the ability to meet some great people.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that struck out for me, is that sort of every day is different, but echoing that sort of meeting great people. I know we met for the first time in person was at Zebu, I believe, wasn't it?
It was, yeah,
It
Zebu
was.
in, was it late September or October? I can't
I
remember. I
think it
think
was
it might have been,
October.
yeah, it might have been the first or second week of
Yeah.
October. And yeah, I mean, that's a great. I've only been twice to Zebu. I went in 2022, and then I went obviously last year. We'll definitely be going again this year. But yeah, it was fun, obviously, to meet everyone. There was a lot of people there, wasn't there? That were in the CSE community, and we had quite a good drink. We had a good couple of nights.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that transition to turning from just being online friends to in real life is also something good, because crypto can be, if you're not working in a team or whatever, crypto can be a lonely place. You just sat at your desk pretty much on your own all day every day, unless you've got someone who's maybe a friend or something that's interested in crypto as well. It can be sort of you get that online interaction, but apart from that, you never really see anyone that to do with crypto, unless you have a friend or a family member who's also interested in crypto. It is purely online. So yeah, it's obviously good to meet everyone in person. And yeah, we should have another good time at Zebu this year. I think it's late October this year. So
Yeah,
still got a
I'm
good
looking
while.
forward to it. So it's a new venue as well this year. We're over at I saw some videos that they posted about the new venue, and it looks really good. But yeah, I can't echo that importance enough. I think it builds that trust and makes lifelong memories. But also, I think, as you say, a lonely place. I mentioned this to Justin when we were speaking last week. It's, if you take yourselves out of the world we operate in, it's a really, for the everyday person, it's a really mad, crazy world. And I think unless you're in a community that are also going through similar things, it's hard for people around you to really sort of resonate and understand, particularly sort of through the volatile times. Like when you've got good times, everyone's asking you what they should be buying and all of this stuff and the euphoria. And I think when you go through those trickier times, it can be really lonely, especially sort of when we go through periods like we had from sort of February. February could be a lonely month. Yeah,
especially through the summer months as well. And something like we got last year, 8 months in that range of just chopping in like the 60s, popping into the 70s, and then just eventually grinding down into the 50s. That was a brutal 8 months. And if you're just on your own, just trading or whatever, you could easily go insane, couldn't you? You could just go insane of just like, this is never going to end.
Yeah, and it makes you feel sort of that there is a world outside it, but also learning from people who have been in it. I think sort of being around people who have been through this and know exactly where it's going and that it'll all be all right in the end is quite reassuring. And especially sort of from the experiences, I know sort of I've learned a lot listening to you and your experiences and how you've sort of navigated some of these times, and it is really helpful to be in these communities. And I think I'd echo to anyone who is looking to join one of these to really sort of get in and get to know people, because you never know who you'll meet, and the opportunities that will potentially open up on the back of those.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to fully indulge yourself, don't you? Especially if you maybe looking to go full time, or maybe you want to, maybe if you're working, say 5 days a week, and maybe you want to drop down to 3 days a week in a job that you're doing, and maybe you want to pick up that extra money through trading and stuff like that. the added bonus of listening to someone like Justin on my streams every Monday, obviously with Block, what he does in the CSE community. All that is like it's invaluable information, and that's obviously built up from experience from them people passing it on. So you just have to fully indulge yourself, and you just have to just be like, I don't think in trading there's anything, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No,
I suppose it could be like, but,
should I 100x long this or this without a stop loss?
Yeah. But in terms of there's far stupider things going on in crypto every single day, every single second, than just asking the right people the right questions.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Yeah, it's I mean, in short, it can be a lonely place, but once you indulge yourself in a community and get to know people, it's probably like one of the best things you'll do, because this opportunity that we've got, or this circumstance that we've all fell into, it's kind of it's never been seen before, and probably won't be seen again in terms of the world. We've never had something like crypto before, where mostly obviously it's been all the suits and stuff, hasn't it? You're never just going to suddenly be able to wander into a bank or on a trading floor and just suddenly start chatting to people. You would never get that, and we'll probably never have something like crypto again. So
it's redrawing. I liken it. It's redrawing the largest and most historical industry known to man, which hasn't had a huge amount of reform.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity you have, it's one that I think will dissipate quickly as it becomes more institutionalized. And sort of, for me, coming from a corporate background, I sort of see it where there's hierarchies and there's ladders, and crypto for me feels like technology was in the 80s and 90s in Silicon Valley. Where it's just a little bit like the Wild West, but it's growing so quickly that there's so much opportunity around, and it's just a case of hop on and hold on and try and make what you can out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that the industry needs a big cleanup, doesn't it? It needs a big cleanup, and it kind of goes from the top down. But as it matures and stuff like that, you will. I mean, you have got to think, haven't you? There's probably a lot of people out there that have made, especially with how altcoins are at the moment, that are maybe got themselves in a position of potentially no return, because maybe they've been gambling on pump fun or in the trenches, or maybe fully ported into meme coins or whatever. And unfortunately, I think that's the transitioning of next time. Then maybe people look into. I think we've probably bred a lot of Bitcoin maxis this cycle. I think me particularly. I think I have fully been mostly converted into being a Bitcoin maxi. For the next period of cycle, whatever we enter, or the next cycle, or whatever happens next. So I think it's just all a learning curve. I don't think anyone would have predicted that this would have happened to the market now. I don't think we could have, unless when pump fun came around, somewhat you just had it in your head of this is going to severely dilute the liquidity across altcoins. I don't think anyone would have predicted that Bitcoin sat at above 80k and altcoins have pretty much been in a full bear market over a 3-month period.
Yeah, I think it's shifting into that mindset of what I call capital discipline. I think from previous cycles where it's been much easier in the fact you just had to buy any coin, hold it, and it would go up. I think now it's bred a little bit more of you probably, and this is what I said to Justin last week. I think the value of community now isn't just what coin to buy, but it's now a case of knowing where it could potentially get to and having that exit strategy in mind. And thinking that far ahead. I think gone are the days where you can just buy something, stick it in a portfolio, and not look at it for a year and then sell it for 10 times the price. You have to be a bit more strategic now, which I think opens up more opportunity for those who are a bit more active and those who are putting in the work and learning from people like yourself and Justin from Block Pro about really sort of how to approach these and the skills to have. And I think there's still a lot of value out there to be had. I think for me, I think the pump fun obviously had an impact on it, but I think as well, you saw is because of that previous cycle, is a lot of people tried to sort of front run the Bitcoin pump, whereas sort of on this altcoin season, it was rather than riding Bitcoin up, then going down the risk curve, people just went down the risk curve, trying to avoid and skip buying or over indexing on the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin's basically just gone, no, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been caught out on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very much a rotational cycle, hasn't it? You know, you just had to rotate, which, you know, again, is hindsight's brilliant, isn't it? Just, you know, going back saying, well, all you had to do was buy Solana, come out of Solana, and then go into Dogecoin. And then, you know, literally 2 trades, and you could have made, you know, 40-50x as a rollover this cycle. But, you know, hindsight's brilliant, in it. You know, I don't think anyone would have said that all you had to do was buy and hold Solana for 2 years, swap it into stables, then buy Doge below 10 cents, and then bang, you know, you've got another 4x there after you've already turned like a 20x, 30x on Solana.
No, the real trade was Solana $8, full port into Trump, sell out of Trump at the top, and swap back into stables from your Solana at 295.
Yeah.
Anyone who's done that, drop me a message, because I want to ask you how to play the rest of the cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a tricky one. But I think I certainly, from my trading perspective, is I quite like the turbulence. I've made a lot more money on down shorting it than I have longing it, and I think for people sort of getting into that community element, tend to be a bit more scared of going for the red button. And on the whole, if you're careful and you manage your risks, it can be quite a good move.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also like people struggle. I mean, I know this is something that I've looked back now, and I have definitely identified that, me personally, I think it's definitely affected me shorting when I was holding spot. I've definitely, you know, I've thought about it, and definitely gives you, unless you're just completely detached from it, holding spot definitely kind of blurs your vision in when you're looking for downside, without a doubt. You know, you don't want price to go down, do you? Because you don't want, you know, your portfolio to go down.
No,
but,
and you can sort of just trade the directionality of it. I've found a lot of success in that, and I think that you also have that bit of that fear of missing out on the main assets as they go up. The way I've been sort of navigating that is I've been trading a lot of coin margin stuff. Admittedly, I regret trading coin margins. I do, now that I have a stupid amount of ETH that is just getting progressively more worthless as the days go on. But I think ultimately, I think Bitcoin exists really as a good saving tool, and it's difficult because I think you mentioned it to me once, and it stuck in my head. If you go on the weekly chart on Bitcoin, there's only actually about 10 giga candles in its history. But when it runs really, really, really hard. And if you don't get one of those big runs, the short opportunity far outweighs anything long.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's like any market, isn't it? You know, the trend is up. You know, the trend, you know, on Bitcoin anyway, the trend is up. You know, similar to TradFi. But when you do get them periods where the trend isn't up, the downside is very volatile and very quick. So yeah, I think we've obviously seen that over that week when we dropped out of the range and we just plummeted down into the 70s very quickly. And obviously, you know, whatever happens next, whether we go up or we go down again, whatever it is. I think we are probably approaching a point where we either go up now to kind of, late 80s, 90k, or we are going to drop pretty significantly into the 60s. I don't know what comes next, but I think we're maybe getting close to a point where one of them two things happen.
Yeah, we're getting to that point where something has to happen. I know this is something that we've spoken about a lot, and you've spoken about on your stream, as to sort of where it goes. I think there's opportunity either way. I look at it as there's always opportunity in the market, and if you see something go before you've got money on, there's so many assets to trade, whether that be crypto assets, whether that be altcoins, forex, commodities. There's so much. That was always the thing that stuck into my head, and I guess another reason for joining a community is I was a little bit prone to that, and Block Pro was always just said, just catch the next one, the next one.
Yeah,
and I think this goes into that sort of capital discipline element of there is always an opportunity. You've just got to be strategic about it, and you can't make money if you don't accumulate and look after what you already have.
Yeah. 100%. And even if you do, make a mistake like that, say you miss a trade and then you kind of revenge trade it. Yeah, you're probably going to take a hit, aren't you? But as long as you identify that that's what you've done, and then not trying to revenge trade the revenge trade, then, you can always just say, right, okay, well, I shouldn't have done that, on to the next one, and then just try and make it back on the next one. I think, people are maybe too hard on themselves because, at the end of the day, you can't always control your emotions, can you? But, definitely, I hit a revenge trade a few weeks ago because I was short on Bitcoin from, I think it was about 87,300. And I was looking for a run of the highs, which was around like just shy of 89k, and I closed it and then woke up and obviously we was then plummeting down. And then I tried to long it too early at 84k, and then obviously took a hit as we dropped to 81 before we bounced back up. And that was, I look back on that, and that was a revenge trade. I was angry that I'd closed my short overnight because I didn't want to go to sleep with it open, instead of just following my plan and letting my stop loss do its job, which it would have been a very nice profitable trade. And then I tried to revenge trade it back to the upside because then I wanted to get the short down, instead of just stepping back and going like, okay, this probably looks like it's going to drop lower. Yeah. So, as long as you go back and just analyze that and you figure out why you did what you did, and if it was an emotional trade, then you can just look back. And I mean, something, that I've kind of implemented as well is trying not to take trades on Fridays, especially moving into the weekend if you've got something on, because, it can dominate your weekend. Or, these, if we go back and have a look at the weekends, typically we've got one boring day and then one day of volatility. I think we had a Saturday not too long ago where, I think it was that Saturday actually that I got stopped out, where we dropped down to 84k on the Friday, and then on the Saturday we dropped down to like 81 or 81 and a half. But then I think the last two weekends has been Sundays. That's provided the volatility. So, yeah, I mean, unless, we're already at a pretty key level, I think it's kind of just knowing when to trade and then when to not, isn't it? And, sometimes the best trade is no trade.
Yeah. And I found Fridays have been strange because I think previously, earlier in the year, you tended to see Fridays tended to be quite a bullish day. You tended to see quite a lot of rallying. I think now in equities, you're seeing a lot of sell-offs, particularly towards the end of Friday sessions, to almost mitigate the risk of something happening over the weekend. So I found a bit of success in sort of getting out of positions on a Friday morning, or early on a Friday session, and just leaving it and then seeing what happens on Monday. Because it's stressful, and like you say, it's having that ability to switch off at weekends is quite nice. There's always opportunity, and I think certainly keep an eye on charts over the weekend, but it's nice having that freedom to be able to step back on a weekend. and have that mental break. Because I think from a trading perspective, it really helps my decision making personally, is sort of being able to step back and say, look, am I going that way? Am I going that way?
Yeah.
And I found that much easier after getting rid of a lot of my spot positions. I found it so much easier to trade directionally.
Yeah. Yeah, it unblurs your vision, doesn't it? You know, it unblurs you even if you are holding spot, as long as you've got that mindset of also being a trader and not letting the spot position blur your vision for looking, if the market's going to go up or down, whatever it goes, and being fine with that. But I mean, typically, if you do avoid as well, maybe going into a position on a Friday, you do get a really good entry then as well. If you just analyze where you'd want to get in, up or down, over the past few weekends we've seen obviously the ability to get into a good long or a good short on a Friday or a Saturday. That then obviously when we come to the new week, the move's just instantly reversed, and then say like this weekend, if we was to get a weekend pump into say like 85, 86k, or maybe even higher if we go towards 88, 89. I'd be looking to short it down.
Yeah.
So, potentially just being patient and waiting for if we get a Sunday scan pump or something, then looking to, reverse it.
Yeah. And I think it's quite interesting. It's certainly one thing I've noticed from sort of the attitudes I'm seeing in various groups and on crypto Twitter, etc. now is there's almost a bit of a lag effect. So you see you see a lot more short positions now, I think, because you've seen so many people make money on the short side of it. You then see this lag of people will look to short every upward candle and will continue shorting. And I think it'll be really interesting when we get to that bit where we turn the corner, and probably a warning to a lot of people to really sort of look at how they're approaching the charts, because I think there'll be a lot of people who get caught out in thinking I'll keep shorting, and at some point it will just go nuts. And as we said, like when you get the big candles on Bitcoin, they're very, very big, and if you're not mitigating risk and get caught on the wrong side of that, it can arguably be worse than being caught on the end of a downward candle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, if you become too obsessed with one side of the market, then you are leaving yourself wide open, aren't you? Similarly to the long side, if all as you are is looking for longs all the time, unless you're able to control that, and then if the price is coming down, you just sit patient and wait for it to hit, an interesting area or key SR or whatever, then you also, leave yourself open that side as well. But particularly on the shorting side, you need to know when to not step in front of the train, don't you? I mean, as it's looking at the moment, we're getting a Bitcoin pump as we're on stream now, and I wouldn't want to step in front of this where it's at the moment, because it looks rife for potentially at least coming to run Wednesday's high as a minimum. But I won't be, even if it did that today, I don't think I'd be stepping in front of it, because it may be coiling up for maybe a strong weekend pump. Potentially.
I mean, you put me in front of the Fartcoin train.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you've been placed right in front of that Fartcoin.
But yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think going back a bit to your journey, I've always really loved your technical analysis. How did you learn that? How did you come about sort of being able to read the charts and really break it down? Was there a technique? Was there channels on YouTube, etc.? How was that process for you?
Yeah, so I think at first it was just trying to just learn about how you actually read charts, what is support, what is resistance, and kind of the key elements. And then I stumbled across in 2022. There was a few guys on Twitter, and I wouldn't really say they wasn't KOLs. I don't know if they class themselves as KOLs now. I don't know. But they were literally just pure trading, informational, educational stuff, and all for free. and he'd put stuff out on Twitter, and they'd do live streams and trading streams and stuff like that every week. So I just followed them religiously. Looked at all the tweets, watched the streams every single week, and yeah, just tried to mirror what they were doing and look at how like when he was on stream and talking through the plans and stuff for what potentially was coming in for this week and stuff. Just really try and pay attention to why are they looking at that area and stuff like that. Because I don't think you actually have to overcomplicate trading at all. There's obviously there's a lot of moving parts to it, especially if you want to go really technical in looking at order flow and stuff like that. But I don't think you have to do that. I think you can keep it pretty basic if you want to. But yeah, that's really how I done it, because I'd obviously left my job as well. I had pretty much just free time to just watch as much material as I could. And obviously, this was before, a product like Stonksy come along and stuff like that. But I looking back to that point in time as well, I don't think there was much. I remember there being Lux Algo on the market. But I don't think there was really much offered on the market in terms of help people. There wasn't CSE back then. CSE Plus with the Discord and stuff like that. So you just had to kind of, just try and find something that worked for you. So yeah, that's what I did, and definitely stuff that I learned a couple of years ago I still carry over now for sure.
Nice. And what was your sort of biggest learning curve of that? Can you pinpoint certain things where it just felt like it started coming together, or was it more of a gradual process?
I think definitely the biggest one for me anyway was definitely emotional management. So not over trading, not revenge trading, FOMO, but also just letting a plan roll out. And it's still something that I don't let happen all the time now. Like I mentioned before, I had that short on down from 87 something, and I didn't let the plan roll out. I didn't let the trade stay open and just let my stop loss do its job. So most of the time now, I just have a plan on a chart, and I'll wait for it to come into that. And if I get stopped out, I get stopped out. If the trade goes the way I'm hoping, then that's good. But then that really helps you avoid being overly emotionally involved in the trade then, because ideally your stop loss should be at a place where you're comfortable with the amount that you're potentially losing, so then you can just sit back. If the plan comes in to your level, obviously your trade opens, and if the plan goes against you, then you let the stop loss do its job. Where loads of times, especially in my first year or so of trading, you get into a trade and you'd be watching the 5-minute chart or the 1-minute chart or whatever, and then you'd get scared, and you would then I say close the trade, and then you look at the chart an hour later, and then that was just a little bleep thing where it was dipping into the negative, and then it's going the way that you do, and then then maybe you get emotional, and then you start trying to chase the trade, and then you get in the trade again, and then it's obviously a lot higher up or a lot lower down, depending on obviously if you're long or short. So yeah, I think emotional management is definitely the key. Not over trading, not FOMOing, not revenge trading, and not being too emotionally involved and just treating it as a trade. And that obviously definitely comes with risk management as well.
Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable with getting stopped out, then you're risking too much. Yeah. You should be comfortable with letting your stop loss do its job. And then if you get stopped out, you're just wrong on the idea and you move on to the next plan.
Yeah.
So I think definitely the emotional management is the biggest thing probably for people to overcome, I think.
Yeah, I've found that, and I found sticking to rules. I think once you stick to position sizing rules, but also I know I've seen quite a lot of people who will move their stop loss and have that sort of stop loss of thinking it's going down. I'll move it down to give myself some more room. Yeah. And I think at that point, when you're starting to move your stop loss, you're invalidating your own thinking and your own risk management principles. And like you say, if you get stopped out, you get stopped out. It's as long as you've got a strategy where you're outweighing your risk to your reward and you're having those wins, it's that's all that matters. And I think, yeah, going back to it, that's probably the biggest and the hardest skill to learn. I think you can read, from my experience, you can read the charts to your heart's content. It's having that ability to really set the rules and stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the thing is as well, you know, if you are going to go at it alone, obviously, you know, the benefits of what we do as Stonksy is, you know, you get indicator access, but obviously with what Dean's doing with the bots and stuff like that, you know, you don't have to be emotionally involved in that because, you know, the bot will open and close it for you. You know, you could even turn the notifications off if you didn't want, you know, to be knowing when trades are opening and closing, you know, because obviously the bot will do the work for you. But yeah, I think I can't remember what was I saying. I can't remember what I was going on to. What did you say then? I can't remember where I was going with that.
I think we were chatting about that capital discipline element, but no, learning to trade and being comfortable in being stopped out, and yeah, the work from Stonksy, and I find Stonksy is really useful when it comes to it provides that almost that insurance package of you can double check to make sure if Stonksy's agreeing with some of the consensus that you've made. I think if you've got that ability to learn to know how to trade and to position accordingly, Stonks is a really powerful tool to be in that, particularly on the different time frames. I know that there's a lot of people who have had quite a lot of success trading gold on Stonksy with that directionality. Yeah, it's a useful tool, and I think it's been interesting watching the growth that you've had on that, both on the channel but also from sort of the community as a whole.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is that there is no doubt that growing on YouTube is very hard. Like it is very hard. Like, you know, you'll see me, obviously I go live every day, you know, and I'll utilize like TMG's Twitter and the CSE Twitter to, you know, push my videos and stuff like that and push the live streams. And I'm still only just getting to 2,000 followers now. It is a proper grind. There's no doubt about that. Now, I don't know. The Twitter has been quite good. Obviously, I know you have a huge following on Twitter. But in terms of, you know, what I've been trying to do, I think we're at 6,000 followers now. So still only a tiny portion of what you are. But it is a huge grind. And you just have to stick at it. But, you know, you look at someone like Save with Crypto, I think he's at about 8,000 followers. And I think he's been doing it a while. So you just have to stick at it, don't you? You just have to stick at it.
Consistency element.
Just keep consistent. And then, you know, for someone like you, you'll grow your own audience, like, you know, people have. And you'll have people that will come back to your streams every day, you know, or every week, obviously, in the current instance. And you just have people, that, you know, will like coming into the stream and support you. And yeah, I think it's definitely a hard way to grow, but
yeah,
it will get there. You know, there'll be a point where you know you'll, especially with utilizing your Twitter following as well, you'll be able to grow this channel, and yeah, you'll be then a leading KOL.
Yeah, it's about providing value to the audience, and I think for me it's less about sort of some of the vanity metrics, and it's if people can learn from sort of the mistakes I've made, if people can learn from some of the mistakes I've made and the learning, I can help people potentially manage their risk, sort of begin to flourish, then that's really rewarding for me. And certainly expanding and showing off the network, I'm quite fortunate, obviously, to have met you, Block Pro, etc., and sort of having that network of really good people, and then using each other's platforms to just introduce those people and their knowledge and experience to others it's really rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to just immerse yourself, isn't it? It's a good way to just immerse yourself, and start build and helping people or building that community. So I suppose, I mean, for you, obviously as this channel being yours, and you being the lead interviewer on this channel, what's kind of your goals for, say maybe like the next year in crypto and your life? Like what would you like to maybe set yourself out into achieving or doing in crypto?
Um, I think I think for me personally, it's continuing on that learning journey of sort of how can I expand my knowledge both in crypto, but also from sort of that wider lens of how things work. I always loved macroeconomics growing
Mm,
up, and I think sort of being able to lean into it a little bit more and get different people's perspectives on it is something I've really enjoyed. Certainly listening to people like Justin
mm,
and Block Pro and getting
yeah.
different views on it. I think I think if I look at it's almost sort of what can you create in terms of helping people. I think that's sort of it gives a purpose, and I think certainly one thing I've been really sort of looking for is having that purpose. And if you can make money whilst doing it, then that's a good bonus, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you fall into something that you like doing and gives you more freedom, if you can make money on the way of doing it, then that is like the perfect combination, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And just being able to just do something fun and interesting. I mean, obviously, both of us in some fairly questionable outfits, but sort of almost playing that character. I know that that's something you and I have spoken out before. Is there's not really any characters, and I
No.
think that's the one thing that this space has been missing is sort of that fun element
Yeah.
of making it fun. Because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a fun industry. I think looking past a lot of the seriousness where you've got a lot of the institutional money, etc., and you've got people telling you that everything on this earth is going to be on the blockchain and all of that stuff. I think ultimately it's still a degen's paradise, and a lot of stuff
Mm.
exists purely for the entertainment of just being volatile. And
Yeah.
I think adding fun to it is whilst also adding fun to it whilst also helping people actively manage the risk and rewards that is in the system.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I still feel like that. I still feel like we're missing some big personalities or big characters in this space compared to last cycle.
Mm.
Obviously we've had Do Kwon go, we've had SBF go, we've had majority of the time CZ's been gone, and obviously nowhere near as involved as he used to be. I feel like there's a big void. You never really hear of. There's no like big builder, is there? Like Do Kwon, taking the headlines in late 2021, 2022, with obviously UST and just Luna's explosion. There's nothing like that now. There's I don't really see like I don't think I think apart from Hyperliquid's very interesting. I find that I find that a very interesting project and obviously just platform going forwards. But then there's no like I couldn't tell you who made Hyperliquid. I don't know the names. I don't know. I never see anyone on Twitter come up.
Mm.
From the Hyperliquid founders and stuff like that. I don't know them, and maybe that's on purpose to not make themselves like a like a confrontational character or whatever. But just that meme of Do Kwon, that meme where we sat back on the sofa like this and just
Mm.
sat back like that, like as Luna was like blasting through $100 and stuff like that. Like there's like it's kind of like it feels like a lot of the heart and soul has been ripped out of the industry. I think.
Mm.
Especially like with the number of scams and just these high profile scam launches that we've had. So maybe, yeah, maybe Tomo saying Wiz is the main character. Maybe we need to launch a campaign to to recharacterize crypto again.
Yeah, I agree. And Michael Saylor's a big name. Yeah, Michael Saylor. I know. I
Yeah.
know. Dave has some thoughts on Mr. Saylor.
The thing is,
Yeah, I
with
agree.
Sailor, everything's just boring now, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
he's never going to say anything different now. You know, everything he says is always the same. Every interview's the same. You know, when you get to see MicroStrategy buy more Bitcoin, it's not, you don't get excited or anything, do you?
Mm.
Sailor is like kind of like a really just mundane topic now, I think. I'm talking about the big characters like, you know, SBF, you know, saying he'll buy everyone's Solana at $3 and tell them to piss off. You know, yeah, like you know, Do Kwon, CZ, like, yeah, you want them interesting characters, and I feel like it needs to be brought back. Now, whether we need something controversial and something risky, like I know me and you spoke about it, but one of the Sonic founders says that they think they've cracked an algorithmic stablecoin, didn't they?
Yeah.
But they wasn't sure whether to proceed with it because of obviously what happened last time. But I think something like that
Nightmares.
would just be, it would get exciting again. I feel like if, you know, especially like if it started to grow, you know, it went to like 1 billion and 2 billion, and then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, this algorithmic stablecoin's getting quite big again. Something like that. But I think Hyperliquid has been, yeah, you know, it burst onto the scene, didn't it? And it's obviously, you know, the stuff that goes on with Hyperliquid at the moment with, you know, obviously we had the jelly and
It gets people talking, doesn't it?
yeah,
I think
exactly.
being
Yeah,
able to
gets
see
people excited.
trades on chain, and I know a lot of it. We've discussed some of it. That a lot of it is for show, and it can be used for smoke and mirrors. But I think it does bring some of that murkiness out into the open.
Yeah.
And everyone always gets quite hyped seeing some of these massive trades, but some of the trades that are on it are minimal compared to what you'd probably see on Binance and things
Oh
like that.
yeah, 100%.
Like when you see
yeah.
$100 million position, there's so many of those that will go on Binance, but it opens up that freedom, and I think as you say, it's almost bringing the character in. I know we've got some that are emerging now. I mean, David Gersh is a prime example. He is he's a character.
Yeah.
But it's just making it fun. At the end of the day, it's still sort of how do you keep people engaged and really in this industry. And I think having some of these characters that break up the mundane makes it a lot more accessible to the everyday and less about going to conferences and hearing about people saying they're going to put farming on the blockchain.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know any farmers, Dave, but half of them haven't discovered fire near me, so I don't think they'll be using blockchain.
I think most of them are bothered about this inheritance tax, aren't they? Than bothered about putting how much corn they're growing on the blockchain.
Yeah, they're too busy protesting.
Yeah. We got Tomo in the chat saying buy Sol Season. Oh, they just putting it up. Yeah.
I'm not a financial advisor, but Sol Season will do quite well. I think that's another thing. I think sort of getting into the community is it gives you the opportunity to work together on things and almost have some fun. I know we had a lot of fun with Sol Season. Obviously the market has turned somewhat, but I think once sunnier horizons are upon us, I think I've just got a feeling it's going to be a really, really fun end to the year.
Yeah.
And you got to be in it to win it. And I think this is where it separates a lot of people who are on the here for the good times. I know last summer, as you mentioned, last year as a whole was a bit. You had quite a lot of people who were brought in from the April run up, and then it was just that 8-month range of death.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And you know, maybe we see something similar. Maybe we see Bitcoin just range and chop until September or so. It's going to be interesting to see, obviously, what happens. But I mean, you look at Bitcoin and you see it pushing up now. I think it's kind of gagging for the right condition in it to just fully even if it's towards like late 80s, 90K. I think it is just for how well it's held up against obviously all this stuff we've had going on, with in the time that SPX has fell off from its all-time high to its low, which I think has been around like 15, 16, 17%, isn't it? From that time when SPX topped out, Bitcoin has actually only fell the same. So I think Bitcoin was at around like 95 or something at the time SPX peaked at its all-time high. And when that started to fall off, Bitcoin is down the exact same percentage. Obviously, from all-time high, it's down more, but it's pretty much mirrored, percentage to how much it's held up against it as it's been dropping. So I think it is just really like it's just gagging, isn't it, to pop off if we get the right conditions.
I think once we get the headwinds that dissipate, I think it'll do quite well. But it's that again, that sort of being in the community and knowing sort of which way to go. I think then, just to sort of wrap it up, then my question to you would be, in fact, I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So an interesting one that I always ask is, so desert island crypto. If you could only hold five crypto assets for the rest of your life, what would you hold and why?
So obviously number one would be Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin, and obviously because I have been mostly converted to being a Bitcoin maxi through the altcoin performance so far this cycle. Number two, I think it's interesting, but I think I would still go with Ethereum because I think while it's obviously, it's a massive meme at the moment, isn't it? And the performance of it is horrendous. You can't deny it is horrendous. But I think, across the next, and I'm not too up to date with the schedule, but I think once they get sharding in, like properly implemented, and then suddenly the Ethereum mainnet is scalable and we don't have the issue of, people wanting to trade on Ethereum and suddenly you have to pay $100 gas fee.
Yeah.
Once they actually get that in and they get it right, it kind of removes the need for, competition on it. And, we'll still see things like Solana and that around. But, Ethereum still dominates most of the stablecoin supply, doesn't it? Most of the stablecoins are on Ethereum still. Obviously, there's a lot bridging over to Solana, but I think once we do get that sharding in on Ethereum and suddenly it's like, okay, it can be an actual usable chain now. You don't even have to use L2s if you don't want to. You can manage transactions without gas fees going to stupid levels. And I think that I don't think that's actually too far away, that sharding. So I think, for the long term, I think they will get it right on Ethereum. Obviously, the short term is very painful for Ethereum holders and potentially, where it goes down to if we get another drop on Bitcoin. But long term, I don't think it's just going to suddenly shrivel up and die. So I'd go with Ethereum, probably number two. What would I go next? I think, I'd definitely put Hype in there because I think obviously, we'll probably see eventually all sexes go to KYC. I think even non KYC centralized exchange at the moment, I think eventually they'll have to go to KYC.
Or on chain.
So, or on chain. So, I mean, long term wise, over the next few years, you probably only see Hype gain as long as nothing bad happens to it. As long as that the Hyperliquid Foundation or whatever it is that doesn't get blown up like it was at risk of with Jelly. So go Hype. Number 4, I would probably go. What would I choose at number 4? I don't know. What would I choose at number 4? I think I would go. I tell you what. I'll go a little bit controversial here. I'll actually go with Tether because it's always good to have some cash on hand to either trade perps or to buy more dip. So I'll go with Tether or USDC, whatever you want. But it's always good to have some on hand to trade perps or to buy more of Bitcoin or whatever on a dip. And then number 5, obviously we could go with Salt Season like Tomo's put in the chat. But if we're sticking it in and around, say like the top 100 or so, I think, yeah, something like ZRO is a very interesting
Yeah.
project, isn't it? You know, that's one where you'd you'd be going for something with a lot more potential and a lot smaller market cap, which potentially, you
Yeah.
know, as the room to grow.
The technology is really good behind it. I must
Yeah.
admit, it's probably, I think it's probably my biggest holding that I
Mm.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think cracking list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
agree with you. This having stables on hand is always good.
yeah, so I'll go ZRO, but if I had to take ZRO out of it, I'd probably go something like Ton, because I think,
Mm.
you know, I think they just have, if if they get, and this was rumored that they're going to be releasing an on-off ramp. Suddenly, then every Telegram user, you don't even have to, you know, create an account or anything. Oh, maybe you have to put some details in. I don't know. But suddenly, then everyone with Telegram automatically has just instant access to on and off ramping onto Ton. Which, you know, they already have the users there, don't they? They've got more
Mm.
users, probably. You know, they've got more users than every single crypto project probably put together. You know, the amount of people that must use Telegram. So I think, you know, if they bring something like that out, or just a long term, maybe future of Ton in terms of you know onboarding users and maybe, because still, you know, I don't think probably Ton's that much of a used network, is it, at the moment? Like, I don't use Ton.
No.
I've only
I,
used it once or twice.
yeah,
Um,
I don't particularly take it, but I find the user interface on Ton is and sort of that it feels clunky, but it feels
Yeah.
as though I think once they get past that clunkiness, yeah, I think there's opportunity on it, like you say. It's how it's best utilized.
Yeah. So I
I guess
think
the
that.
final thing. So yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. So I think, yeah, that's my slash 5 or 6. I would say.
Nice. And I guess the final thing to wrap up then, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody watching this who is quite new to crypto, new to the industry, based on your sort of experiences you've had, what would it be?
I would probably say take your time. Don't don't rush into it. And what I mean by that is, don't think you have to suddenly take $1,000 and turn it into 100 grand within a month. I think the main thing is to just kind of slow down and just take it step by step. Obviously, you know, try and, if you going into perps, you know, really just slow down and focus on, you know, the basics and risk management. Obviously managing emotions and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But then, you know, in terms of a spot holding, I think at the moment, I would say, again, slow down, wait for the right opportunities. You know, obviously, altcoins have been battered. You could probably buy altcoins here and see long-term increased value. But if we do, and obviously it's a big if we do get another drop, we're probably going to see another 20-30% shaved off altcoins.
Yeah.
To the other side, you know, if we pump up, probably 20-30% quite easily, even if Bitcoin goes towards 90k, probably see huge value added to altcoins. But in terms of a spot perspective, yeah, probably I would say focus on large caps and maybe just playing the rotational game. So not holding on to them too long, and, you know, if they do get 20-30% pump, selling them and then maybe looking to get back into the downside. I still think we're in a rotational play. I don't think suddenly we're going to get like a 2021 style boom and suddenly everything's like 10, 20, 30% higher within 1 to 2 months.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
across spots
Agree.
and perps, that would be my advice: is just slow down, you know, create like a plan, and don't put too much pressure on yourself, and just focus on steadily, you know, building up and improving, instead of thinking, right, I need to take this $1,000 and this needs to be 100 grand because I've seen someone on Twitter driving a Lambo, or I've seen someone on Twitter, you know, trade something, you know, 100x or whatever it may be. Just, yeah, slow down and focus on what your goals are. Because I think even for the average person, you know, if the average person can take, say, 10 grand and across 2 years turn that into 100 grand. You know, that's a big achievement. You know, a lot of people won't hit
Mm.
6 figures. You know, a lot of
People lock up money for 4%
yeah.
in their bank account
Yeah.
savings.
But even just like in terms of just like if you compare it to the average person, you know, if you can make enough money in crypto to even pay off, say, half your mortgage or your full mortgage, that's a big achievement in itself. I think we've maybe become really blurred as an industry, I think, into maybe people believing that they have to make millions or they have to be able to have like 3 Lambos or you know what I mean? Just absolute craziness. If you can, you know, be in a position where you have hardly any bills or, you know, maybe have half your mortgage paid off or your full mortgage paid off and you can spend the rest of your life, you know, with your own house and be debt free in that instance, I think that's a huge achievement because, you know, you look out in the real world and 99% of people are paying off the mortgage, aren't they, into the 50s, maybe even 60s.
Yeah, it's
So,
tough,
you know,
isn't
if you
it?
can put yourself in a position where, you know, you're financially free in that instance, I think that's like a good thing to aim for. You don't have to aim for millions or, you know, 10 Lambos or whatever. I think focusing on maybe removing this kind of like crazy crypto lifestyle that we've been accustomed to seeing and focusing on, you know, still being in the real world and thinking, well, how could I get myself into a really comfy position to live, you know, maybe a nice simple life or maybe the life that you're living now, just obviously more comfortably and obviously being in a position to potentially remove a lot of bills, you know, puts everyone in a better position, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Let's have a look then at how we are doing. So if we go across to this screen, here we are. How are we doing on our
Oh
trade?
no!
We are
Oh
down.
no!
we are down 10%. Fartcoin seems to have a lot of strength.
In my defense, to be fair, in my defense, we have had 2 fairly decently sized hourly candles on Bitcoin while we've been on.
You should have told me to put it on Bitcoin then, Dave. That would have been lovely. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Chat, do I leave this open? Do I close it? Where are people's thoughts on Fartcoin? Is it the future of finance?
I think we're at a really interesting point, aren't we? Because obviously Bitcoin is already going ahead and pumping, but in terms of the S&P 500, it looks like it might be positioned ready to go back up now. Obviously, we've had a deep retrace yesterday. We retraced almost all of the move on the S&P. It seems to have found, you know, a place where it's held overnight and into this morning. But Bitcoin has already done that and it's already heading up. I mean, also something to note was, I don't know if you've got it drawn on your chart or whatever, but we are really slamming into that trend line now, the descending trend line. Like we are pretty much currently where we stand as we are as well. Depending on obviously where you draw it, people will draw it differently. But we really are slammed into that. And as soon as we break that, I think we could see a decent pop to liquidate to the upside.
Yeah, I agree. I won't flash my charts up because they have some of the positions I'm looking at and I don't wish to be front run. But yeah, no, I think, tell you what, we will market close 50% and let the other 50% run.
Yeah, I'm looking at that trend line.
We'll be sensible and live another day.
I'm looking at that trend line now, and the more I look at it, the more you can see just full liquidation cascade to the upside. Like, you know, we could easily see like 89, 90, 91K next week if we, you know, break above this and hold. And then from there on, obviously, it's a different story what will happen. But yeah, I think it's approaching a really key bit, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's coiling up for a potentially huge run up on Bitcoin either over the weekend or into next week.
Yeah.
I mean, what I look at it.
Oh, Dave, you should have taken the
I
stream
know.
off.
Look at that. I know. To be fair, I thought it might have slowed down a bit because I didn't think like we're pretty much at like the highest level of Wednesday now.
Yeah, we've broken this level
Yeah,
here, haven't we? And we've taken out this
but the
wick.
more that I look at it, the more I think maybe like we run up towards like 90k, 91k, and that might be just one big bull trap, and then we drop back down, and then this is
Yeah.
kind of the settled range, where then we just absolutely trap
Yeah.
people under that major resistance, and then drift back into the 80s,
Yeah.
maybe even 70s.
Yeah, we've got this 83.5 region, haven't we, from earlier in the week that I know we were looking at shorting
Yeah.
from there. That you just got there, and then if you zoom out onto the higher time frames, we can see. Look, you've got that run up, and it feels like it wants to take out this wick and the liquidity that probably sits above there. But thanks for coming on, Dave. And you've got some more of me this afternoon. I'll be on Stonksy with Dave, talking all things charts and what I'm looking at. So hopefully see as many of you as possible there. But thanks for your time this morning, Dave. It's been good to have you on.
Thank you for having me on, and I will come on whenever you want. Just let me know. It's always good to return the favor.
What a star.
It's been a pleasure. It's been
Brilliant.
a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Make sure everyone goes and follows Stonksy. Make sure they follow Dave. Make sure they follow me. And I'll see you again next week. I've not got a guest on for next week, but I think I've got some ideas of potentially some good guests to have on. So should be a good one next week. So take care, and I'll see you all this afternoon on Stonksy.